Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. Overjoyed to find in my virtual studio Sally Inkster of Find Brand You. We call this the Sally Inkster Find Brand You show. And on this show, we are talking all about branding, specifically personal branding. Now, bizarrely, when I asked what the topic of conversation today was to be, she sent across household chores compared to a personal brand.
I did.
So I believe you're going to explain this to me in words of one syllable or less.
Well, I am. Number one, I'm going to bring you up on it's not personal branding, it's personal brand, because there is a big difference between branding, and marketing.
So all right, hold the phone. I know the last one because apparently that's what I'm involved in. But would you explain the difference in words that even a poor pea brain like me can understand?
Okay, brand is basically who you are, what you stand for, and how you help. So it's all about who you are as a person.
Like an ethos. An ethos.
Yeah, but it's way more than that. It's just every single thing about you.
Oh, gosh.
Everything you're good at, everything you're bad at, everything you look like, everything you do, all your history, all your jobs, all your skills, all your talents, all your values. It's just everything about you.
Okay, cool.
Branding is how you show those things in terms of a website, on your social media, through colours, through fonts. That's branding.
So hang on. So brand is the thing that you show via your branding?
Yes.
So branding is the doing bit.
Branding is the doing bit.
Gotcha.
Brand is the being bit.
I'm very good. I'm very good at the being bit. Okay, great. I think I've got that locked. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Right.
Actually,
we're not going to talk about kitchen sink. That's next week. This week we're talking about AAA.
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 Right.
Okay, so when you do a personal brand, it has so many cogs to it. I mean, if you think about it, there are so many cogs to you. I mean, if I took you back to your childhood and then your teenage and then your works and your skills and all those things that you have picked up on the way to your ripe old age of now, you've picked up quite a lot, haven't you, really?
The bits I can remember, yes, definitely.
Okay. So the first A stands for auditing it. Okay. Right. So there are various things we need to look at in a personal brand to see if we have remembered them. And do you remember last week we talked about a store cupboard?
I do.
Yes. Okay. And have we taken the right things out of a store cupboard?
Almost definitely not. And the trouble is, we don't always want to talk about some of those things, do we?
I mean, personal brand isn't about making yourself vulnerable or telling your innermost secrets. It's about just giving a hook about something you've done. So, first thing that comes to my mind, I jumped out of a plane before I had ever landed in a plane. Or I took off.
Sounds like the wrong way around, but okay.
I took off in a plane but never landed.
All right.
Because the first time I ever went in a plane, I was about 17. I did a parachute jump. And I was so excited to be going in a plane that I said, could everybody else go first so I get a longer plane ride? I began to
my full brain, the question was about to jump out was it successful? But we'll move on. So you went up to 18,000 feet, jumped out, and landed, thank goodness. And wow, and you'd never actually flown on a plane anywhere by that stage?
No, never.
Wow.
And so that could be just that statement doesn't have to have the whole story to it, but that statement is something about you. And in your store cupboard, you've got lots of things like that. And so the cogs in the wheel of a personal brand, when I try and explain them to somebody, I talk about Squibby. Squibby. Okay.
What's that?
There's too many acronyms today, isn't there? So Squibby stands for self-awareness,
Okay.
communication,
Yes.
okay, website, stroke LinkedIn,
Okay.
yeah, image,
Okay.
brand story,
Right. Yes. 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 We cover one of those.
yeah, and your why.
All right. So
Okay.
it's quite a lot all in one, really.
It is quite a lot all in one. And what I try to do with people, especially if they're just chatting to me, is say, well, let's look at each of those. How much have you done or do you have about self-awareness? Self-awareness is two different things. You get what you feel about yourself, what you know about yourself, and that's called intrinsic because that's inside you. And then extrinsic self-awareness is how other people view you and how much they understand what you are about.
Apparently, a lot of people don't have much of that.
No, they don't. And so the action comes in where you look at where you are. How much do I do that? How many books have I read? Do I know my personality? Do I know this about myself? Do I understand that about myself? How do I tick? What are my brain, what are my mind blocks? If you know all that, then auditing it is a good idea because you might think, oh, actually, it's not that good. And so if you audit it, then you can take some action. And along with action, to take action, you need accountability. You need to tell somebody or to do something to say, I'm going to find out about myself. I need to do a course. I need to do this. I need to chat to somebody. I need to fill in some online quizzes, all those sorts of things.
More doing words.
Yeah. You just learn a lot about yourself.
Right.
And then communication, you do the same. How do I communicate? How do others communicate? How does communication work? Is my communication on LinkedIn the same as it is on Facebook? Is it the same as it is on the website?
Right.
Do I always talk about the same thing or do I wander off on different paths? Communication can also be a written word. Are my fonts the same? Are my colors the same? Are my pictures the same-ish along all the platforms? So if somebody pops to me,
I've got a fancy word for this.
Go on then.
Congruence.
Congruence. Exactly. Very good word.
I don't know what I'm blushing. Wow. What an effort. I think that's all the mental effort I have for today. Good night, everybody. All right. So carry on.
Can you spell it?
No.
Okay. So your communication along everything needs to be. And so you have to audit that. You can't just do it once and go, yeah, it's all fine. Because we know that things change. You do something else and perhaps it didn't quite hit the mark or it didn't quite match or it didn't quite have congruence with all the other things that you have.
But you know what? This rings true to me because in marketing, if you're putting out stuff and representing a brand or working with a brand, Madam Inkster, then often one of the most important things is different elements of that. Though there might be disparate different types of marketing, there has to be a common thread to them all.
Absolutely.
And that's where, exactly mirroring what you just said. Absolutely. God, I was doing it right without realizing it. Brilliant.
And the trouble is, especially when we're starting off in business, there's so many things to learn and so many things to get right. How do you do that? And that's when you need that bit of accountability, because it's all very well saying, well, I think I'll do this or I might do this. You need to say, oh, you're going to do that. Okay, I understand that. And you're going to get it done by this date. And oh, by the way, have you done it? So I think with personal brand, it's always good to have an accountability partner and somebody else who can second check. Because as we know, when you go on your computer really loves you. And so it shows you all the nice things about you. Whereas if you go on something like Google Incognito, it shows you how other people see you.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you done that recently?
I'm painfully self-aware. Yes, of course, I have to check Incognito anyway to check how it looks when I work on somebody else's brand rather than logging in as them again. So I'm constantly looking at them or looking at myself. Yes, I'm trying to exploit my idiosyncrasies because I think it helps me stand out.
You have, I can't say the word. You have any of those?
I'm very idiosyncratic, madam. Everything from my proclivity of wearing ridiculous hats, all the way through to my color choices and the fact that I always wear a bow tie. It all adds together, plus my mode of speech, my particular pedantry as far as the English language is concerned, and also my excessive politeness. It's all part of the very thing that you're referring to.
Exactly, because it's part of who you are, and over the years you have discovered that you feel comfortable with that, or that is part of you to show your wackiness, however you want to describe it.
No, I'll take wackiness. I quite like it. I quite like the idea of being wacky. The thing is, and I'm sorry, this is a side note, but do you remember at school, if anyone stood out, they were bullied mercilessly. If they are too tall or too short or too fat or too thin, they would always have the living what's it kicked out of them. And now everybody's desperate to try and find something that's interesting about themselves so they don't disappear into the grey.
I think that's true, but I think that's also growing up, because as a child, our brain actually wants to merge in, because we want to be part of a community. So that, it goes back to our old brain, doesn't it? If you're going to go out hunting, you're probably better to go in a group, because you're safer that way, and it gives you your tribe. And as a child, you try your hardest to fit in. And then when you come out into the world, you try and fit in your corporate company, in your job. It's only some of us entrepreneur people who go, actually, no, I don't want to fit in. I want to look different. And the big advantage about social media is you can show your big differences in there. And even if they're not big differences, you don't have to be bigger than big, and you don't have to be bigger than the next person. You just have to show who you are, because always whoever you are is really interesting, and really interesting to people who want to work with you. Because
interesting is a watchword that I use a lot when I'm talking to people, actually, in general. It's all this desperate urge to find the uniqueness in people, and I shy away from that. I try and avoid thinking about unique, instead of think of interesting. And I think you need to show that you're interesting within your brand, don't you?
Yeah, you do. But the uniqueness isn't that you have to be something completely different. So as I say, I was a cancer nurse. That's not different. Loads of people are. Then I was a stylist. That's not different. That's not unique. Loads of people are. Now I do personal brand. That's not different. Lots of people out there do personal brand. But I am probably the only personal brand person who used to be a cancer nurse specialist, then was a stylist, and also is a soul plan reader. I am probably the only personal brand person out there who does that.
And refreshingly so. And to be honest, it does irritate me when I hear people. You meet them in these tiny little celebrity squares on Zoom, don't you? On these whatever sessions, these networking sessions, and you ask them to describe who they are, and they describe themselves and say, and the reason that makes me different or unique is X, which is exactly the same as every other one of people who do pretty much what they do. So it's the search for the thing that makes you memorable and stand out.
I sort of agree, but secondly, I think it's not. It's just the combination of skills and talents and values and how you come over that makes you an individual. And I think what you're trying to do is become an individual when you're out there, and your brand is individual to you. It is not brand you can't copy from somebody else. Your brand is who you are.
Sure.
Discovering that is not always an easy journey. Obviously, I make it a lot easier, but if you do it on your own, it's not an easy journey.
Yeah, but Sally, what I like about what you do, and forgive me for talking about you while you're still in the room, but what I like about what you do is you bring a certain amount of panache to it, so that rather than well, yes, because otherwise it's boring. I'm so bored. I mean, I spend all my time on LinkedIn advising people, right, left, and center about how to make themselves memorable. And most of the time, I say, do it this way and that way. And they come back with their version of what I've said. And it's so boring and dowdy and uninspiring. And I like the fact that, for instance, behind you is a mess of color sequins, a marvelous array of colors. And that you allow yourself to embrace this color field. I think people, I mean, I'm not sort of bang on about it. That color is much neglected by people.
Yeah.
But you understand what I'm driving at. It's not enough to be skillful or successful or have ability or training or PhD, PTO, but BBQ or whatever it is after your name. You also need some sort of style that allows people to remember who you are and why you do what you do. Yes?
Exactly. Yeah? A wonderful rant, Gareth. Perfect.
I'm so sorry. It's just, it's very irritating. And I keep saying to people, but of course they can't see through my eyes, you need to flourish, because if you look flourishing because you understand who you are and are conveying, then other people will want to flourish too. It's very hard to be inspired by someone who has a grey logo on a grey background and talks in a grey manner.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's sometimes the issue. People come out when they've been a long time in a grey corporate suit, and then they come out and try and be who they are. And it's great. They're absolutely a brilliant person and they're fantastic at their job, but they have to be able to show their brand through their branding. And it's very easy to sort of feel secure back with that navy blue and grey, isn't it?
Yeah, I one of my good friends and also a client who I live stream with on Wednesday mornings is David Chernick. And David Chernick, for many years, used to work for a company that you and I, Sally, would have known in our youth as Big Blue, also known as IBM. And they had very, very strong branding. Blue suit, blue tie, white shirt, no beard. And what does he have? A 1.5 foot beard. And he used to have big, long hair tied back. So yes, he always stood out. And, even to this day, very much his personal brand is built on the fact that he stands out from the crowd. Sally, once again, you've taught me more. It is a learning. Every day is a learning day with Sally Inkster. If you guys want to learn how to make your brand stand out, be resplendent and shine that little bit brighter, I recommend spending a little bit of time with Sally Inkster. She will give you ideas, and I think the no obligation chat you have with them is free. Yes,
it is, absolutely.
Yeah. So I recommend take a look at her website, which of course I'm making run across the bottom there, sallyinkster.com, or in fact go to her on LinkedIn, or if you find all of that too difficult, approach me and I'll connect the two of you.
It's quite easy. Remember my name, you can get to my website.
Absolutely. Sally Inkster, what a great name. It's good. It's almost good as Gareth Wax. Now, I just wanted to say thank you very much once again for this ongoing training. This young Padawan is learning slowly. And to all of you, just remember, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, take care of yourself, and wear some sunscreen. I think it's going to be quite hot this weekend. And I think so. Look after that mental health. Bye-bye all. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.